The May 11th, 2026 meeting of the Bay City Commission will come to order. The clerk will give the invocation, which will be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, which will be followed by a moment of silence for Peace Officers Memorial Day and to recognize all those who have passed since last year, including all public safety personnel. Please rise. Thank you. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Cubit. Kocheli.
Here.
Doyle.
Here.
Tenney.
Here.
Zanatti.
Here.
DeWitt.
Here.
Rumberg.
Here.
Charlebois.
Here.
Morris. Mr. Mayor.
Present. Is there a motion to excuse Commissioners Morris and Cubit? Commissioner Tenney.
Move to excuse Commissioners Cubit and Morris.
Is there a second? Commissioner Doyle.
Second.
Is there any objection? Seeing none, those commissioners are excused, and we have a quorum. First order of business is a closed session regarding the Trano Consulting regarding search applicants under section 15.268. Under closed sessions, is there a motion to go into closed sessions? Commissioner Runberg.
Move to go into closed session.
Is there a second? Commissioner Zanatti. Thank you. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Kocheli.
Yes.
Doyle.
Yes.
Tenney.
Yes.
Zanatti.
Yes.
DeWitt.
Yes.
Rumberg.
Yes.
Charlebois.
Yes.
All right, a motion to go in closed session has been approved. We are in closed session. Okay, we are back into regular session, and we do need to note that Commissioner Cubit did arrive, and so we've added her to being in attendance. So the next order of business calls for presentations, and lucky us, we have Mr. Martini in his final presentation for the city. One of the final, well, we got more, but of this budget presentation year. So we have fiscal year 26-27 budget. And I'll know Mr. Martini, make sure we talk right into the microphone.
Well, good evening. Today we are going to start the official presentations of the 2026-2027 budget. And tonight we're going to focus on the general fund. And we have some slides here that similar, of course, to last year, but as I think as we did last year, we took questions as we went along instead of trying to keep them for at the end or anything. So and sometimes I'm not real good about looking around looking for questions, so Just throw something at me if necessary.
And I'll watch for that. I'll call.
Okay. Okay. First off, the general fund budget is very, very comparable to last year, a 0.57% increase compared to last year's budget. So total of $28,949,304. And as is consistent with for the last 13 years, this budget does not require or anticipate the use of any fund balance from general fund to balance. It's truly a balanced budget. Some of the big changes I will kind of go through. First off, taxes went way, way down this year. And what that was is a reclassification of the electric department pilot that they pay the city for administration. A GASB pronouncement came out and said that's not a tax, that is actually a transfer in. So if you look, the transfer in is way up and taxes are way down. Licenses and permits, this is some of the things that we're seeing for some of the marijuana revenues. License fees are way down. Taxes also include a significant reduction for that excise tax for the marijuana revenues. And intergovernmental has a small increase, but for the most part, revenue sharing, the amount that we receive from the state of Michigan, is actually decreasing. And this is the first year that we've seen a decrease in quite a while. And it was way back in probably 2008, 2009, 2010, back in those days when it was decreasing and it went way down, and eventually, the last 5-6 years, it's really caught back up again. And it was only about a year or two ago that revenue sharing got to be as much as it was literally 15 years ago.
Commissioner Tenney had a question.
Thank you, to the chair. Sir, two quick questions. I'll throw the softball at you first. We typically see a pie chart with the general fund. I didn't see one this year. Is that something that you could do up perhaps and push out there?
The pie charts are actually, the auditors typically do the pie charts. I haven't included those in my budgets. We do have some charts or line charts for staffing, but no, I don't have pie charts. I probably could include them in future presentations.
Well, that'll be beyond your 10 years, so.
Well, no, I have the presentation next week and then on June 1st, so.
Not for future years, but for the, gotcha. That would be outstanding if you could. Yes, please, and thank you. And then the other question was, my understanding of revenue sharing is that it's based on a formula for a percentage of like sales tax across the state, that sort of thing. Can you talk a little bit about why there's this ebb and flow, I guess? Because I don't know if you can, it's okay if not.
In some cases, it's actually some administrative decisions that are made. The city doesn't just receive statutory or constitutional revenue sharing. I believe there's also a portion of it which is statutory, which is what the legislators can tinker with. And, but yes, and things of course have slowed down a little bit, and of course some of the other revenues that the state had available for the last several years, a lot of the ARPA dollars, the bipartisan infrastructure dollars, all of those are now pretty much drying up.
Got it. Thank you so much.
All right, Commissioner Runberg.
Would that be the 1.6 million that was taken away from us? Would that be considered part of the revenue sharing, or is that something that's separate? And how did that play into this year's budget?
The 1.6 million that's kind of out there in play, That was actually going to be a street revenue to basically reimburse the city for what is our required contribution for the Lafayette Bridge. That's at least one of the $1.6 million that you're talking about. That is actually now up to about 1.9 million. I believe that's what's kind of in play right now. But then there's also an additional allocation that's, again, out there floating around for additional street revenues. And that, I think, is still maybe somewhat tied up with the marijuana 24% tax. So wherever that's going, I don't really have a good answer for you.
I'll say, Commissioner. Just real quick, so some of these numbers could be floating numbers. We kind of have generalities from the state, but we don't have fully firmed up numbers, or are these your assumptions based on firm numbers the state is providing?
Most of the numbers that we have for the general fund are probably a bit more firm. We've got firm allocation numbers from the state for revenue sharing, and those numbers do show that to be a small decrease from previous years.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner DeWitt, and then
My question,
Commissioner DeWitt first, and then.
I know it's fairly similar. The thing that I noticed, and because of the changes, I got a hold of a couple of their municipal budgets, and this adjustment in how state revenue's coming in is not just an us thing. A lot of it is appears to be statewide for at least cities in our population band. So this is a abnormal change, but it's not a only us change at this point.
Oh.
All right, Commissioner Cubit.
my question is about the state proposed budget. So I know there's the governor proposed budget, the Senate passed budget, and then the House, and that we should know how it all shakes out. It should be by July 1st. How does that timeline affect our planning?
We get the estimates for the next fiscal year in time for our budget preparation. What we see is that our estimates that we get versus what we actually receive, there are differences between those two. And depending on what happens in the economy, what happens in the state budget, those differences can be $10 or more. Fortunately, over the last several years, most of those variances have been positive variances. Anybody's guess.
I guess I was excited to see in the governor's proposed budget a substantial allocation for local roads. However, I wasn't sure if that were to pass, and that's a big if, what proportion of that Bay City could likely see. But I suppose we'll believe it when we see it, and we'll sort that out if it actually comes along.
That's
fair?
Probably about the best position to take.
Thank you.
I'll set commissioners. All right, continue.
The next decent-sized allocation there is charges for services. This is our cost allocation that we do to pretty much all of the other departments for the services that general fund provides to them. And getting down further, like in miscellaneous, there was almost an 80% reduction. This was last year's budget included about $800,000 that we were anticipating as a donation from the Dream Field. It was, I believe, a baseball field, and that development did not happen. We never received last year's revenue, and it's not in this year's revenue, so that's why the big decrease. And then, of course, as I mentioned before, the transfer in was way down because of the change in the accounting for the pilot. Moving on to the general fund expenditures. Again, very, very small increase in comparison to last year. Salaries up 2.6%. That is consistent with the collective bargaining agreements and the various raises that our city staff have received. Fringe benefits was a larger increase, and that is primarily due to increasing costs for health insurance. But what in particular happened last year is it was actually the healthcare increase the year back in 2025 that increased significantly the cost for retiree health care. So then when we got our actuarial report for the Retiree Healthcare Trust back in June or July of 2025, that actuarial statement said that we're going to have to put a lot more money away, and that our underfunding was larger than what it had been in past years. So as a result, our contribution for the retiree healthcare cost went up quite significantly. And I do have a slide on that later. That's a graph that we can show. But other services, one of the largest increases between the 5.1 and the 6.3 is we have roughly a $900,000 grant, I believe, from the federal government for the demolition and remediation of station number 2. The demolition is included in that budget. Capital outlay, significant reduction there, and again, most of that is for parks projects. Some of those projects are being funded from the capital improvement plan, but again, as I pointed out, the $800,000 Dreamfield did not happen last year and did not move forward this year. And then,
Commissioner Kubit.
I want to go back to the other services, just to make sure that I'm clear. So the grant that was awarded is showing up in the budget, but that's money that's coming from the grant. So it's not like we're having, the reason that it's substantially increased is really because we got an extra grant, not because we're spending more money in that area from our normal fund.
I know what you mean, yes. It is part of the general fund budget, but it is a different funding source, and I didn't really point it out in the previous slide, but those revenues included that grant from the federal government as well.
Okay, so similarly, I heard there was just the announcement about the grant for First Street, so those will be new dollars that would, I don't know if that's been factored into this budget yet.
That I would have to take a look at, but that's going to be in the street fund, and that presentation will be on June 1st.
Thank you for helping me keep things sorted.
All right, Commissioner Coakley.
The Dreamfield, is that the one that was going to go over at Defoe?
Yes.
So that one is not going to happen now?
So to the city manager, well, it looks like we have somebody from Parks coming up, but
yeah, I'll just talk about this real quick. They are still working on it, so they are raising the funds, the Little League. Once they have the funds, they are planning to build it and then donate the final products. They're not donating any money to the city, so that's why it's not going to be in the budget.
Thank you.
okay, all set. The question? Please continue.
And transfers out, I believe I've actually got a slide later on in the presentation that kind of gives the detail of the ins and outs that make up those changes. But again, very small increase in the total general fund, 0.57%, and really taking into account the $900,000 grant that we get that is in these numbers, the general fund is actually smaller than it was last year for other purposes. And this is just a little graph of our assessed and taxable value between 2007 and 2026. Obviously, way back in 2007, we had just about as much taxable value and assessed value as we do now. And just the last few years have we gone beyond that. But the one thing I do want to point out that's kind of an anomaly that caused a lot of issue back in 2007, 2008, 2009 is when people saw that their property was worth less money than it was the year before, but yet their property taxes went up. And it's because of that difference between the taxable value and the assessed value where your assessed value can go down, but if your taxable value is still higher, then you could still be eligible for an increase based on inflation of that taxable value. And that caused a lot of issues back in 2010, 2011, 2012. And we're starting to see a good-sized gap between those two values once again, and it kind of sets it up for that.
Commissioner DeWitt.
I know Mr. Martini is going to probably know what I'm going to ask here. This chart, is this an inflation-adjusted chart or a raw dollars chart?
This is what assessed and taxable values are in the Bay County Equalization Report.
Okay, just so the other commissioners are aware of that difference, what it could show if you did it the other way.
But
Are you all set? Okay, thank you.
And of course, this schedule is our state shared revenue sharing. And as I discussed before, we've seen some fairly steady, nice increases over the past several years. And going between the 26 budget and the 27 budget, that nice little trend kind of took a little downturn. Maybe as we actually receive revenues, maybe it'll rebound, but at this point, we're expecting less than what was received last year. Okay, general fund personnel is for the most part very similar, 135 down to 131. Some of the changes, the city manager eliminated one admin position in her office. The patrol department or public service eliminated a couple of the recruit positions, which are kind of floating anyways. And other departments just had some minor allocation differences. So pretty much consistent staffing. Kind of going back to some of the things that I talked about before, this is some of our fringe benefits. And again, as you can see, health insurance is up maybe almost 15% or a little lower, somewhere in there. Retiree health care, clearly that was the biggest increase right off the bat. And that was that whole issue with the actual valuation going down and quite frankly, the cost of retiree health care going up so much. Retirement health savings, that's actually a percentage of payroll. So the only reason why that's increasing is we've actually got more people that are getting retiree health savings as compared to traditional retiree health care. Police and fire retirement actually went down. Basically, the actuarial reports were coming in pretty good there. MERS defined benefit, we've got that pretty well funded. It's about 97% funded. So we're seeing some changes there. But MERS defined contribution, we've just got more people in the defined contribution plan than we do anymore the DB plan. Again, kind of talking a little bit about the unfunded liability. As you can see, the total liability for the MERS DB plan is $69 million, and we owe about $4.9 million. Again, high 90% funding level. Police and fire defined benefit, total liability almost $80 million. We've got about $61 million sitting in the trust. unfunded 18. And retiree health care, this is the one that took a little dip. And the liability was much less last year. And even though the funding level, we put more money in, and the funding level, funds available went up quite a bit, the cost and the liability went up more than what we put in.
I have a quick question. So at one point that was zero. Right? We started at 0 years ago. And then it was mandated starting in 2011. We started to have to put away.
The retiree health care has been handled differently than pension contributions. Pension contributions for many, many years, you were required to make those actuarial contributions, or the state of Michigan was going to be calling up and asking why not. Retiree health care, all you needed to do was just pay the cost of the actual benefits. And that's what many people did for years and years and years, and had absolutely nothing put away in reserve. When I first started here in 2013, we were somewhere around a 6 or 7% funding level, somewhere in there. And my recommendation to the then city manager was that this needed to be a priority. And the previous city manager had started that. Mr. Bellman had started some decent contributions, but during Mr. Finn's term, we really increased that and kept that going. And now, of course, you know, we have our total cost for retiree health care in terms of what we pay for premiums for all of our retirees is, Angela, 7 million, 8 million, somewhere in there. And we're contributing $3 and $4 million, and we're still building because the amount of money that we put in, that $42 million, when you earn 8, 9, 10%, the amount of money is not chicken feed. It ends up saving. It ultimately, if you pre-fund your benefit levels, you will save your government about 85 cents on the dollar for the actual cost of your benefits. You just can't afford to just pay as you go. It's a horrible, horrible thing to do. We've done very well here. A lot of communities are not anywhere near as well off. And I think although my tenure here is coming to a quick end, I would certainly put in a vote for continuing that trend.
Yeah, it has impacted budgets, though, right? We put, several $1 million a year, so it has a tremendous impact on other services. Just so, because I hear that comment a lot, is where'd the money go? And a lot of it we're putting away because in the long term we save dollars. Is that kind of an analysis?
Actually, I've got some slides on that too. So.
Okay, Commissioner DeWitt had a question.
I'll wait for the other slides.
Okay. Okay, this is, this next slide, this is showing the MERS defined benefit plan. And, we go back to 2015, and you can see the unfunded liability was much, much higher. And now it's come down to, a very, very small amount. But here's the flip side. This is the contribution level in the same period. We were contributing $5 and almost up to $7 million, and now we're contributing $400,000. That's not a small difference, simply because we got those funding levels where they're supposed to be. Public safety and fire unfunded liability, that has started coming down. We're catching up on that. And again, contribution levels were going up, but this year it is less than previous. But this is the one that I like the most, is if you look at the liability, when you have a higher funding level, and actuarial stuff kind of gets a little technical. But when you have a higher actually money in the bank, your unfunded liability actually goes down, even your total cost. But so we've seen that go down, but as you can see, that the contributions into the retiree healthcare fund have really gone down. Last year, we were down to about 3 million as compared to a high of about 6.5 million. And then, of course, because of the increase in healthcare, it bounced back up to around 4 something. So, you know, that's an extra almost at $1.3 million that wasn't going into a fringe benefit for fringe benefits. That was money that was available in the general fund and in the street budget, et cetera. And as we continue to get those benefits funded, you know, that's the whole benefit of it, is more of that benefit gets paid for by the investment revenue.
Mr. Martini, if we were to keep the current pace, do we have a general estimate what it would take to get to where we really are fully funded at that level, and then most of the revenue collected then can go into city services and streets and all those other needed services?
Well, the retiree healthcare fund is, of course, you know, we use an actuarial valuation to generate our contribution requirements. And the contribution or the actuarial standards was that we started out at 20 years and we've now decreased to 14, 15 years, somewhere in there, in terms of, you know, the last actuarial, which means that we're supposed to get 100% funded within 15 years. That is assuming that healthcare costs stay the same. That is assuming that we earn 7.5% on our revenue, investment revenue. There's so many assumptions that go into that, and we don't change any kind of retirement patterns or anything like that. So to go ahead and sit here and tell you that we're going to be fully funded in 15 years, please don't come and see me in 15 years and say, hey, we're not, because there's so many things that go into making that change.
All right, thank you very much. Commissioner DeWitt, did you have a?
That was the question I was going to ask when I got to this, so thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Now we'll go ahead and get into the individual budgets, starting with the city commission budget. Personnel costs, same, fringe benefits, pretty much statutory benefits. And other services, the increase there was IT services. But other than that, the budget is pretty much exactly the way it was last year. Certainly we did not add any commissioners, still the 9. Moving on to the mayor's budget. Fringe benefits, the big change here was the former mayor had a city paid for cell phone. And so that is not being done now. And and then just some other services, minor changes there, but relatively small changes. Again, one person in the mayor's department. City manager's budget, again, as I mentioned before, the city manager did eliminate one administrative position, and hence the reason why you see about a 7% decrease in the personnel costs. Fringe benefits pretty much are exclusively retiree health care. That cost impacted that department. Operating supplies, the increase there was some additional new software. And as far as other services, again, IT services was up a little bit. And as I said, this budget went from 3.7 positions down to 2.7. So moving on to the public relations budget, this was pretty much just a continuation budget, 0.92% increase, roughly $210 increase. And public relations, after the change that we did 2 years ago, does not have any personnel allocated to that budget. The accounting budget, again, personnel are up 4.84%. It is still the same positions. There's 6 individuals in this budget. Personnel is pretty much consistent with the raises in that department. Fringe benefits, again, are pretty much exclusively the increases associated with retiree health care. Operating supplies, pretty much exact same thing. And other services, IT charges, again. Again, the personnel, consistent with the last 5 years, 6 people. Finance budget, this one has a little bit more changes. Personnel cost, 7% based on increases for my position. Fringe benefits, I guess you could say I was a cheap employee. I had health care from my previous employer, so my position, I just received the $3,000 opt-out benefit. But knowing that this position was going to be filled by somebody else, we basically put in about $30,000 in health insurance benefits and a few other little changes in there. Operating supplies, just minor little changes. Other services, again, actually IT services are down about 10,000. So, and again, the one position, that's my position, the Fiscal Services Director. Moving on to the city clerk's budget. The personnel costs, again, consistent with salary steps as well as salary increases, 4.7%. Fringe benefits, this one, a lot of the increase was also based on the health insurance as well as retiree health care. And then in other services, much of that was IT services went up, and then there was also a significant increase in printing costs.
Commissioner DeWitt?
So for the commissioner's name, you have the book with the taxes. This was there was a question in this department I had that I just want to note for everyone. It was on the revenue for taxes. My question was, what is the rationale for the decreasing tax revenue for this department? Because it went from an approximate $750,000 to $150,000. And the response I got from Mr. Martini today, the city clerk taxes represent the amount that the city collects for the marijuana excise tax for the state of Michigan. The city collected a high of $948,561 in 2024, $756,972 in 2025, and $432,136 in 2026. We are budgeting $150,000, which is the amount of the commitment of the drop-in center because of the uncertainty of this revenue source. So there is a decrease in the revenue side of this department. I just wanted to make clear that I saw and wanted to ask that, just so everyone else here understands why that's lower.
Thank you.
Yes, the marijuana excise tax in particular has gone down dramatically. That's the only way to describe it. 900 to 700 to 400, and we just have no idea what it's going to be. So we budgeted the minimum amount to cover the cost of the drop-in center. Anything extra will automatically go to the roads for major and local street repairs. Okay, so again, this budget's up about 13.8%, which is the fringe benefits combined with IT and printing costs. City clerk personnel, consistent with the 3 positions. The auditing budget, last year's adopted budget was 75. We raised it to 80,000. This was done before we accepted the bids from Yo and Yo. The bid for the 2026 audit is actually 75,000. So we've got 5,000. Either we can adjust it immediately or somewhere during the year have a positive actual or positive budget variance. Purchasing budget, 4.5% increase on personnel, pretty much consistent. Fringe benefits, very, very stable as well. Operating supplies, this shouldn't be a big surprise to anybody, but a big portion of that operating supplies budget is postage. And that was the entire increase, the $3,000. And then other services, IT services again. Purchasing personnel, we have 2 positions in this department and consistent with past years and going forward.
Commissioner Cubit?
Yeah, can you tell us the increase in IT services? Is that salary and healthcare cost? Is it personnel? Why? Just brief us a little bit on the increased IT services kind of across the board.
Well, I guess IT, we have consistent staffing. I don't believe we've had any increases in staffing. Fringe benefits, we replace new people with lower benefits, et cetera, et cetera. But I would probably guess that most of the increases are going to be in terms of the services that we require in terms of service contracts on this piece of equipment and this piece of equipment. But the expert is right up at the front of the desk.
Yeah, we'll get to that in the next couple budgets, specifically IT, but if you look at our budget, we only increased $257-ish thousand overall. And if you notice these numbers in each one of these departments, they're not all increases. Some of them are decreases, because what we do is I almost every year look at the cost allocation that I use to distribute the costs for our budget across the city, and departments change, and what we allocate to them changes. There's a lot of information behind of what we allocate out, but I try to change it every year to make sure it's fair to the different departments that require our services. So they change every year, not just for a price increase, but because it shifts from one department to another. But bottom line is it went from 1.596 million to 1.854 million, and just the dollar amount increase, George is mostly right. We just have hardware, software maintenance, and costs for supplies and support that go up by anywhere from 5 to 10%. And if anybody's seen any of the tech stuff with memory and everything for equipment, these replacement cycles are 15, 20, 30% for parts of that budget. But overall, it's 13.9% increase to that budget, and it's distributed differently.
All set? All right, thank you.
Okay, moving on, the treasurer's budget. Personnel costs are relatively static. Fringe benefits, again, health insurance was about 20,000 of that increase, as well as the remainder, retiree health care was about $27,000 increase. Operating supplies, postage hit this budget as well because they send out the tax bills. And other services, consistent with some of the past other budgets, IT services. Treasurer personnel, there's been a small decrease. In the past, this department had a full-time, the city treasurer, and then the deputy treasurer, and then there was a part-time position that worked exclusively for the treasurer's office that was 0.65 or 65% part-time. And that person moved on to a different department. So what they did is they changed from a full-time, part-time position to a full-time position split 50-50 between UCS and the treasurer's office. So it's actually a small decrease in staffing for the treasurer's office, small increase in staffing for UCS, but that's now a full-time position. Assessor, moving on. As far as personnel costs, 5%, right on the nose. Again, consistent with non-union increases as well as other step-ups and CBA, collective bargaining agreements. Fringe benefits, this was almost exclusively health insurance, went up about $30,000. And operating supplies, small increase there. Other services went down a little bit, so non-personnel costs were pretty much consistent. Staffing remained constant at 3 people. The elections budget, this budget, as you see from a percentage standpoint, is up 1,397%. That's because in this current fiscal year, there is no major election. And of course, next year there is a statewide election. So we've got costs for personnel costs as well as operating costs. But then the big thing is $150,000 allocation for a state mandated tabulator. At least that's what the budget said. So I'll leave it to TJ if anyone else has any questions about that.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so our election equipment is coming up on 10 years old, and the state is requiring, they are out for bid right now, and they're requiring that we replace all election equipment. And they're estimating $15,000 per precinct. There's been no funds allocated for it yet, so we were told to budget for worst case scenario, and with any luck, we do get funding, but worst case scenario, this covers our basics.
All right, Commissioner Tenney?
Through the chair to the city clerk, just so I'm understanding correctly, the state is mandating that we spend dollars. The state is also not giving us said dollars?
They're hoping to. That's the best they'll give us.
They're hoping to. That's really rich. Okay, thank you.
I did have a question. So we had an election last week. Is that in the budget, or did we not budget it last year? So
No, the February and May elections were not budgeted, and we have not heard anything about being refunded for those either.
do we have a general idea how much they cost taxpayers? Commissioner DeWitt, did you?
And the book number would be approximately $35,000. Because that's over what the projected budget was for the department. It's $35,000 over that right now.
Yes. It would all be refundable. It just fluctuates due to postage and returns and the percentage of voters that we have. So, yeah.
So about
There'll be
potentially
another-
$35,000 of costs that we incur because of the special election that not necessarily we haven't
Correct.
any indication the state is looking.
Yeah, so we'll do a final balancing with the final budget amendments that come through for this year.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
I just was going to respond to Commissioner Tenney's comment about the state mandated cost. There was actually a provision in, I believe it was a Headley Amendment, that basically said that if the state mandates any cost, it has to pay that cost. There was a study done probably 25 years ago that it was done by conjunction with Oakland County and some of the other communities, and they looked at the amount of unfunded state mandates, and 20 years ago it was $5, $6, $8 billion. So in terms of the state basically assuring us that they're going to pay those costs, yeah, I got a bridge to. Maybe that might not be the best term to use here in the city, but anyways, they have not lived with that rule. And for some reason, there isn't any challenges, so. Moving on. City Hall and Grounds, again, we've got some newer people in these positions, so I think there's probably getting their union raise as well as maybe step-up increases as well. So that's the reason for the personnel going up about 7%. Fringe benefits, pretty much health insurance was the increase there, 15,000. Operating supplies, there was an increase for tools, about $1,000, as well as equipment maintenance supplies, 3,000. And then other services, there was actually a drop in professional services, offset by about a $5,000 increase in insurances. And the capital outlay was a snow blower for the City Hall building. And the transfer out, that's consistent. That's actually been a 10-year payback to the electric utility. They basically paid for the cost of paving our parking lot across the street, and the city's been paying it back over 10 years. I think we're coming up on that pretty close. A couple more years and we're done. Okay, one more year after. City Hall and Grounds personnel, again, last year, or actually this year, we increased from 1 person up to 3 people to kind of increase the service level in this building significantly. City attorney.
Didn't we used to contract out and then we brought it in-house? That's why we would increase personnel, just for clarification?
Yes.
Okay.
It was a service contract, and service level was all over the board.
Okay, so we didn't just add, we replaced with.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, thank you.
City attorney, last year's allocation was $180,000. That remained the same this year. Human resources, 5.2% increase in personnel. Fringe benefits, again, probably an inflationary increase. Very, very consistent with this year's. But then operating supplies, the new human services or human resources director put in for some improvements in some of the different things. So, for instance, there's a $12,500 allocation for e-safety. And I guess I would leave it up to Alicia if she wants to explain that, as well as a $5,000 allocation to start working on our payroll system to modernize that a little bit. And then within other services, we have $20,000 for a wage study, and then an increase in attorney fees of about $17,000, and then the increase in IT services, about $5,000. So in total, about a 19% increase in this budget. As far as personnel goes, same allocation as previous years. And appropriations contingencies budget. Last year's budget included $234,000 that was truly contingencies. That was excess revenues that we had not programmed anywhere. This year, we did not have any of those excess revenues. The $157,800 represents the $150,000 that we budgeted for the drop-in center. That's, of course, funded out of the marijuana taxes. And then the remaining $7,800, we actually received a drain-at-large special assessment from the county for $7,800. So that's our portion of a drain improvement in the city. And moving on to public safety. This department increased their cost by 9.96%. And I would probably say the total increase was from 16 million to 17.5 million. Keep in mind that about almost 1 million of that is that allocation for the demolition. So that basically cuts their increase in basically by 2/3. And so without that being in there, their percentage increase would probably be in the 3% range, which is really better than inflation. And their personnel costs and really almost fringe benefits reflect much lower than most of the other departments. There was also some other significant increases for IT services. MRF costs, that's basically the cost that they are billed for having the patrol cars. And then, of course, the Station 2 demolition, that was $959,000. So that really made up the difference of that 68.42% increase. Capital outlay is relatively small for the public safety budget. A lot of the different things that they put in for major building costs, et cetera, are actually, you'll see those in the public improvement fund when we go through that budget. But they have a biometrics live scan, 16,000, and flow tester for 16,775. And at least I know one of them is covered by a grant specifically. So the capital outlay that came out of general fund is very small for public safety.
Commissioner DeWitt?
That was one of my other questions on that one, because I originally was thinking that biometrics thing, we were splitting that with the county, and the response I got was that it's not a shared piece of equipment. This is going to be ours instead of us using whatever's at the law enforcement center. And that Ms. Martini also mentioned that there would be no cost to the city for this equipment because it's covered by that grant.
Thank you.
Moving on, the public safety budget by departmental. Support was up about 13%. Patrol is actually down about 0.6%. Command increase of about 11. Community policing was down about 18%, and that actually, we were looking at that, and there was a position in patrol that I don't think got allocated properly. It's still providing the service, but it's just not being reflected in that department. And of course, the crossing guards is a small increase there. And the next two, we receive an allocation from the state, the PS 302 MCOLs, which is our training funds. And this past year, they gave us an additional allocation, but they specifically said we had to account for it separately. So that's why we have two PS 302 MCOLs departments. And fire operations went from 3.8 to 4.9 million, and that is where that $959,000 is allocated, which would make that increase very, very small if that was taken out. Public safety personnel, again, relatively consistent, went from 93 down to 90, and most of that was the elimination of 2 recruit positions that they will sometimes staff when they're getting people new off the street and sending them off to the academy. Construction engineering, personnel costs actually went down about 10.9%. There was some changes in allocation of some of the tech positions, which really reflected that. Fringe benefits, again, as a reflection of the cost of the positions, came down, but still had a little bit of an increase. And in terms of operating supplies, they budgeted for an engineering GPS and a GIS laptop. And then in other services, we had some IT services, as well as software and building rent for the DPW building went up in terms of their allocations. So in total, about a 10% increase. Again, as I mentioned, staffing went from 2.79 down to 2.33 positions, and that was just a change in allocations.
So Commissioner Coakley?
Who are we renting from again?
We rent from ourselves. The construction engineering is a tenant in the DPW building. The DPW building is an internal service fund which allocates the cost of that facility to all of the tenant departments, such as sanitation, parks, streets, water, sewer, all of those departments share in the cost of that building.
Okay, so all the building rentals that I see throughout the budget, we are renting from ourselves then?
In many cases, yes. Obviously, for like public safety, they actually rent their building from the county. But most of the building rent is internal rentals.
And that works itself back into the budget?
Pardon?
Does that work itself back into the budget, or does it pay for the cost of the building?
It kind of makes the budget bigger, because what we're doing is we're taking money from one pot and putting it into another pot. But it's basically reflecting the cost of the construction engineering department having some place to reside. And, you know, they pay for the cost of space.
Thank you.
Just real quick, though, there was a bonding that was done, so that it's an allocation to pay those
Yep.
bonds, right, as a cost.
There was a $14.5 million bond that we are going to be paying on for the next 20 years. But then there's also all of the shared cost of that building. So the heat, the water, and the maintenance in the building, the electrical needs, et cetera, those are all lumped into a building fund, the DPW building fund, and then allocated out primarily based upon the amount of square footage that each department
So it's on
utilizes.
paper as a cost allocation, but there is an expense that ties into that and why it's determined what that cost is, just for clarification. Commissioner Kubit?
I wanted to go back to public safety personnel for a second. I see on your chart that the chart goes back to 2018, and compared to 2018, we're just shy of 7 personnel higher. But it's my understanding that if we went back a little further in history, that public safety numbers used to be substantially higher. Is that correct?
Substantially higher for going back way far back. And then in 2013, 2014 was the implementation of the public safety model, and the number of firefighters dropped off dramatically, and that number was probably much smaller than even the 81. And then it really kind of came down to, did we really have adequate coverage? Could they man a fire station adequately with the number of positions that they had? And then of course we also increased the number of public safety officers through the years as well. It has probably been the largest single area of staffing increases in the city general fund budget, and that's for public safety.
All set, Commissioner? All right, thank you.
And moving on, the street lights. Although we keep asking, the electric department says that we can't have free street lights. Don't ask me why. But actually, it's a provision in many of the bond documents that they do, that they cannot just give away free services, even to the city. So this represents the cost of maintaining the poles and, of course, providing electricity for those.
Now, we've been implementing energy efficiency lighting, so has that helped over time, or is it just, this is an allocation based on the number of street poles and general costs?
This number has been consistent for a number of years, roughly in the $700,000 range, despite what you would probably see as general increases in utility bills and the general increases associated with, putting up new poles and things like that. And I'm guessing that the offset is LED efficiency, as well as, at least my own personal experience, I used to change this bulb about every 6 months. Now it's got an LED bulb in it, and I haven't touched it in 10 years almost. So I'm guessing they're seeing much of that out there as well.
Great, I've been a big proponent of that, so I'm glad we keep doing that, so.
Yes. Besides being more energy efficient and green and all that kind of stuff, it saves us a lot of money, pure and simple. Neighborhood maintenance activities. This other services is basically the cost of weed and grass cutting for people who don't mow their lawns, and we send them a letter and then we end up going out there and mowing it. We do go ahead and bill for that service if people don't mow their lawn. We typically don't get quite back what we always pay, but it keeps the city looking better. So, neighborhood services, this is our planning department. Increase in personnel costs, pretty much consistent with union contracts, et cetera. Fringe benefits, there was actually a decrease in healthcare costs, but that was offset by a retiree healthcare increase. Operating supplies, I guess I failed to see what went down. And other services, they are going to create a historic district guidelines that is going to be about $60,000, I believe. And then IT increase made up the difference. Personnel remained consistent with past years, 4.43. Economic development, increase in the personnel costs, and for the most part, that is as a result of a greater allocation of the community development director. Our current community development director has a significant amount of her position being paid for by the Community Development Block Grant, and she is kind of the manager of that program. I don't believe we're expecting the new Community Development Director to have that same level of involvement, so we had to move some of the costs away from CDBG, and part of it came to economic development. Fringe benefits, again, went up as a result of the higher allocation, as well as retiree health care, I'm sure is the same thing. Operating supplies, small increase there, and other services pretty much related to IT services again. Again, the personnel costs went from 1.57 positions to a 1.92%. So I think it's a 35% allocation of the community development director. And moving on to Parks and Recreation, very, very significant decrease in this department, and it's primarily as a result of, not seeing that dream field that was in last year's budget, as well as some of the other major park projects that instead of being in the general fund, we're seeing those coming out of the public improvement fund. So you'll see those projects when we review that budget.
Commissioner Tenney?
Thank you to the chair. Just for the public's knowledge, Mr. Martini and city manager and the parks director have been in some conversations because I'm looking to do a Rexford Jablonski improvement. And city manager and I are connecting when she gets back to get some more specific numbers behind the resolution I submitted back in early March. But that's something that I'm looking forward to. So that's all I got. Thanks.
All right, thank you.
Some of the other costs that, salary and fringe benefits relatively consistent. Retiree health care was about $6,000 of that increase. And operating supplies, we saw a significant decrease in landscaping supplies. I think about 20. My apologies. Sometimes my age definitely shows. About 27,000 in landscaping supplies, and then they did not purchase some various assets for under 5,000. About a $32,000 savings there. And the capital outlay, again, some of the major projects are going to show up in the public improvement fund, but then of course the Dream Field is not in the budget at all this year, so that's part of the big decrease. And last, the transfers out, this is the cost that sanitation basically costs or charges the Parks Department for picking up the trash in the parks and stuff. And they determined that $10,000 would be adequate for the services they provide. Moving on, the capital outlay that is in this budget is CDBG funded park playground improvements, $150,000, and then a truck-mounted salter for $9,000. So $159,000 total. Last year, of course, we had $500,000 for Carroll Park, $437,873 for the CDBG Park, Miracle Field $800,000, Niagara Woods $400,000, and then general equipment $21,000. So that was the reason for the big decrease. Or that's
Commissioner Coakley.
Thank you. Is there services on porta-johns and restrooms for some of the city parks? I know there has been issues in the past with the lack of and so forth at some of them.
I know that there's various service contracts for, maybe Craig can basically get up. I know that there are some, but how many, I don't know.
Yeah, we still have a porta-john service with Johnny on the Spot. We fixed the issues that we were having with them at the end of last year. They misread the contract and were not servicing as much as they were supposed to. So we got that taken care of, and towards the end of the year, they were cleaning them properly, and we are continuing that same service.
So we're going to have adequate at all the parks in the city? I know there was some.
It's not at all the parks, no. Most of our neighborhood parks do not have porta-johns. We did add a couple last year, but no, it's not at every park. A neighborhood park is generally intended for people that are within quarter to half mile from the park. It is intended that, they're coming from their house, they can go back to their house for the bathrooms. More regional and community parks are where the porta-johns are generally intended, but we do have a few exceptions to that.
So do you have an idea of how many you're going to have in general?
I can't remember the exact number. I think I got it here.
I know during peak time, some of them got pretty nasty is the word I'll use.
So I generally have budgeted for 4 handicap that are seasonal, 12 standard handicap porta-johns that are seasonal, and then 3 year-round that are at the boat launches. And that's $27,000 that I budget for that generally. So.
And how many parks will that cover?
That I don't have on front of me, but
If you could get that to me, please.
I can get that, yep.
Usually the request goes to the city managers. Thank you.
If you could get that.
Tony says yes.
Okay. Staffing for Parks and Recreation remained consistent with previous years, so same staffing. And now coming to the transfer out budget, as I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, I had some further detail on that. Transfers out went from 1.2 million down to 1,077,000, a decrease of about 14%, but that was made up of both increases and decreases. The increases were to the airport fund, increased their allocation by 182,957. Building inspection went up 244,749, and middle grounds remediation went up by 82,799. And these were offset by the elimination of the transfer to the cemetery fund, 87,000. The major streets, the 450, and local streets, 150. That's the allocation of the marijuana excise tax. And if we get any money, those will go up to whatever we've got available from those dollars. And we did not have to do a transfer to the sinking fund to pay for the HVAC bond payment, as we've still got some excess funds, but I believe they are running down to just about nothing. So probably future years, that's going to be about $110,000 increase. And with that, I like to think that the city continues to live within its means. Not only have we had balanced budgets year after year after year, but at the end of the year, we have always had reserves, or we've always had revenues left over that we did not spend. So we've balanced the budget and then didn't spend even all of it. So we've done pretty good in that respect. And the budget was, again, a negotiated document between the city manager and all of the different departments, and tried to come up with what is best for the city, and this is the budget that we came up with.
All right, thank you. Any other questions, Commissioner Tenney?
Just thank you to the chair. Quick comment. Thank you to Mr. Martini for all of your years of service and for presenting us with yet another balanced budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I'd like to echo those sentiments. I've had the pleasure of working with Mr. Martini for most of his years here. There was a brief span that I wasn't on the commission, but definitely brought forward expertise. And obviously, there's been, there's challenges in the past, and they worked through those challenges. And obviously, we're mandated to have a balanced budget. So I'm glad every year that we're able to accomplish those. Because it's not always easy, because people expect certain things from their city, and so I think city staff does the best to try to meet those needs with living in the budget that we have available and the resources we have available. We saw back in the 2008, 2009 housing crisis, most of our municipal funds are gathered through property taxes, and we saw a big cliff come down, and so in 2011, a lot of changes were made. We've seen those declines, and then at the same time, the state made a lot of changes on how we recorded things. And we talked about, those retiree health care benefits and how that was a pay-as-you-go system, and then it transferred to, we had to account for those dollars, and we had to show, and I think starting to put those monies away, that'll pay off dividends, but it did have an impact on what city could do with the resources, because a lot of money was diverted into those pensions and those other funding. So thank you again for another balanced budget. So Commissioner Cubit.
Yes, thank you. And I know this isn't goodbye. Could you remind us of your next presentation?
I am going to be here until June 10th. So I will make the presentation next week, which will primarily deal with the utilities. We're also going to tackle the sanitation budget. And then the final one would be, I guess, what we always call just all other funds, all the special revenue, internal service funds, fiduciary funds. And that's on June 1st. And then I will be
Off into the sunset.
off into the sunset.
Any other questions for Mr. Martini? All right, thank you. Thank you very much. And we're going to move
All right.
forward with our next item of business, which is the adoption of the agenda. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda? Commissioner Cubit.
Motion to adopt the agenda?
Is there a second? Commissioner Runberg.
Second.
Do any members of the commission wish to add an agenda item for this evening? Okay, seeing none. Will the clerk please call the roll on the adoption of the agenda?
Commissioner Tenney,
Yes.
Zanati, DeWitt,
Yes.
Rumberg,
Yes.
Charlebois,
Yes.
Cubit,
Yes.
Coakley,
Yes.
and Doyle.
Yes.
A yes.
All right, the adoption agenda has been approved. Next item of business is the consent agenda. Do any members of the commission wish to make a change to the consent agenda? Commissioner Runberg.
I'd like to pull item 12, the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority Board meeting minutes to the regular agenda.
All right, number 12 will be moved to a regular agenda. Any other commissioner like to make a change? Commissioner Coakley.
I'd like to pull number 11, city manager recommending contract with McMillan Maintenance Services of Freeland for Oak Ridge Cemetery.
All right, number 11 will be on the regular agenda. Anything else, commissioners? Okay, next order of business calls for public input on the consent agenda. This is the opportunity for citizens to remove an item from consent for consideration on the regular agenda. If anyone in the audience wishes to make a change, please come to the microphone, print your name on the registration sheet, state your name and address for the record, and the item you wish to have considered on the regular agenda. Okay. Oh, George is not, oh, okay, all right, just making sure. All right, is there a motion on the consent agenda? All right, Commissioner Runberg.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Is there a second, Commissioner Zanati? Second? Thank you. Will the clerk please call the roll adoption of consent agenda?
Commissioner Zanati,
Yes.
DeWitt,
Yes.
Rumberg,
Yes.
Charlebois,
Yes.
Cubit,
Yes.
Coakley,
Yes.
Doyle,
Yes.
Tenney.
Yes.
A yes.
All right, consent agenda has been approved. Next order of business calls for public input. Under the rules of the City Commission, each speaker will be allowed 5 minutes to speak. Commissioner Coakley will serve as the timekeeper. This is the opportunity for citizens to address the commission regarding any agenda item or any other matter. If anyone wishes to address the commission, please come to the forward, print your name and address on the registration sheet, and state your name and address for the record. We do ask you to be respectful in addressing the mayor and the commission. Let you know, public input is a one-way communication, and the mayor and commissioners cannot answer at this time. Please meet with them after the meeting if you need further information. So anybody like to come forward for public input? Just make sure the light's on and speak directly into the microphone. There's a little green dot.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now you can hear me. My name is Kay Moore. I live in the 3rd Ward, and I would like to eventually visit with the commissioner that's in the 3rd Ward. I would like to have some conversations about the 3rd. I'm concerned about the streets and the things that are going on, the things that aren't happening. I lived here about 6 years ago, and I went through all the toll bridge thing, and I fought it, didn't like it, didn't want it, and I was truly unhappy that the citizens of Bay City weren't able to vote. I think that was corrupt, I didn't like it, and we're having all these problems, and I don't think we're making any money, and everyone that we talked to on the commissioner at that time, oh, we're gonna make so much money. Well, I'd like to know how much money you're making. And I know it's an inconvenience, and I'm telling you, I wanna share that I got a ticket in all gray because I turned a corner too fast. I'm 82 years old, and I have a habit of doing that in Bay City because I get tired of waiting for 7 lights to turn to get on the bridge on this road. And so when I go, I quick turn that car, and so I got a ticket because I turned too fast on 23. $200 I had to pay. And I was not happy about that. We're in a position right now where people are irritated and waiting for 7 lights to get off of Henry to get on the bridge. And they're doing shortcuts. It's causing a lot of stress and a lot of traffic and no place to go. You have to wait. And this needs to take charge. You need to do something about it. I'm very unhappy that we have 4 bridges and we're only using 1. So I think all of you need to work on that. As far as I'm concerned, you need to hire an attorney and tell them to take their stuff and get out of here. We need to pay for our own bridges. We need to start charging for these ships coming down our river to help pay for our bridges. And another thing, a lot of the things that cost you a lot of money to pick up garbage in here and there, and yard work, and cutting somebody else's grass, we need to have the trustees in jail do this work. We need to get them out. They're eating every day and living there. Let them get out in the sun, cut the grass, do things for the city that we're having to pay for, and we wouldn't have to pay for it. 1 police officer, tags on their ankles, and get them out there and start doing things for the city. There's things that you can do to save money. That's what we did in Saginaw. Sheriff Fettersfield thought it was a good idea. He went down the boulevard at Court Street and had them cut the grass and trim and do all that stuff. How nice. We didn't have to pay to do that because the trustees did it. And those are the trustees that are not criminals, so to speak. They live in the jail, they're fed. It's good for them to do a little energy. They wash the police cars, change the oil, and do all those things, which I don't know who does that here. But, and our roads are horrendous. I live at the Bradley House. I see ambulances come, buses come. That road on 15th Street has been horrible for 20 years. Patch, 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 patch. It's beyond patch. We need a new road. And when I was here, I had a bike, because I had had an accident. Went down Winona Street, talked to Mr. Davidson here. I had a drink in my hand and my bike, and my whole wheel went like this, and I flew off of the bike onto the grass. And no one is taking charge of writing people's names down and calling the police, because that is a lawsuit. Unfortunately, I didn't do anything about it because I was in the commissioner here all the time listening to things. And I said, Jack, you need to take care of the road. The next day there was a truck going down the road with a flashing light, looking at the road, and did nothing. So I'm living in Bay City, and I am going to be here frequently to complain about things that are not done. There's ways of making money. I have no idea how much money you make on the canvas. How much money have you made?
All right, Commissioner Tenney.
Move to provide the speaker with 2 additional minutes.
All right, Commissioner Doyle.
I didn't think I was talking that long, but
All
I
right,
guess
is
I
there
was.
any objection? Seeing none, speaker has 2 more minutes.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. So, you know, I'm here to help in any way I can, but we need to do something about Bay City. I grew up in Cucullin River, came down, and I thought this was the neatest little town, and it's nothing but bars and restaurants. And I think a lot of things that you're doing is stupid. During COVID, you had us sitting on the middle of the street eating. There was that dress shop that sits next to Mulligan's. They went out of business. When I got back here, I wanted to stop in there to look at the clothes. They were all trucks and cars going into the restaurant. There was no room for her. She went out of business. I want to see it get back to be a quaint town with some businesses. We need smoothie shops. We need another A&W hot dog place. There's businesses that could flourish here. I called Trademark Commercial and wanted them to call IKEA, get them out there on Tuscola. We need them. There's Bad Axe, Caseville, Millington, Vassar, all these places that would draw them to Bay City. And nobody seems to want to do anything. So I guess I'm here and I see a lot of things that are happening and I'm going to be here again. I want you to think about what you're doing and be responsible to make more money for this city. And that means getting more businesses here. It upsets me to go down Washington and see all those empty buildings, and over there on Midland Door owns those buildings, and they're all habitual. They're all boarded up and empty. We need to have somebody to get out there and get people to come to Bay City. And because of the bridge, you watch, July 4th,
Time.
it's going to be dead.
All right, thank
Okay.
you.
But I
Well,
would
your
like...
time, unfortunately, your time has expired.
Okay, thank you. Can you give me a call? I have my address down here. I
Time,
would
ma'am.
appreciate it, Katie. Thank you. Thank you. By the way, do we have a new city manager? We don't. Okay.
Anybody else like to come forward for public input?
Hello, my name is Dustin Kosick. I just got a couple of things I'd like to address. Right here on Saginaw Street, like what this lady was just talking about, sometimes it's backed up way past the YMCA. And I was thinking, some of the residents were thinking maybe we could get a turn signal right here on Saginaw Street where it's only this little. And that's also, the reason why I think it's backing up too much is also because, especially during rush hour, you're having so many people cut through the city, little city, areas right there to rush to get to the bridge. And I think that's causing a great safety concern right now for a lot of the citizens that are utilizing the businesses down there. And we got the Riverwalk and stuff down there, and obviously school is getting out, and these kids are down there using these nice scooters that are now available to them. And I'm just afraid that sooner or later someone's going to get popped when these people are vroom down through there. So I was wondering if it's possible. I know you close some of the roads, for the bars down there, but if it's possible, maybe we could have a way where there's only one way in and one way out, and people aren't, utilizing those few little streets right there to cut through to hit the bridge and beat the next man. And the second thing I have is I've been hearing a little bit about we have that grant for tearing down Fire Station 2 and digging up the soil and stuff and getting all that up, which is great. I get that. And sometimes that's what we have to do for our city. However, like a lot of the citizens in that area, like myself, is concerned because when we get our I just got my new homeowner's insurance thing for re-up my policy, and obviously, like, Fire Station 2 is on my policy. And so people are trying to find out where the new fire station will be, how far is it going to be, how long is it going to take, will that new fire station be up and running or available by the time they start working or condemning that, or are we all just going to utilize the fire station on Center Avenue? And with that said, also having to, like, if that happens and there's a serious fire, then we have to call in Portsmouth, Hampton Township, even Bangor, and how much money is being utilized to get them to come and help us. You know, and those are all volunteer firefighters, so at that time, you never know how many firefighters you'll have at that time. So I was just a couple things that we had, you know, for the south end in our mind. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else like to come forward for public input?
Hello, my name is Kimberly Anthony. First, I want to say this is a beautiful building. I love this building. And I want to second what Miss Kay said. I agree with everything she said, and I would like to add that can we have a decent car wash? I mean, the car washes we have, that you can look at them nationwide, and they've got 3 stars. They damage our cars, and they don't wash them. That's not why I'm here today. I'm here because I don't know if you've all heard about the poor kitty cat that was stuck up on top of an electric pole on the 4th. I run a daycare, and the kids are out there, and a little child actually saw the cat. It was around 3, maybe 3:30. And I don't know how long that cat had been up there. I know that the night before I heard a cat fight. Maybe it had been up there the night before. I posted on Facebook, does anybody know this cat? Is it anybody's cat? Can somebody help? People suggested I call the fire department. I called an emergency line, I called a non-emergency line. The fire department did show up. They said there was nothing they can do. Then I had just gotten in bed, and I heard, a truck pull up. It sounded like maybe the fire truck or maybe a light or electrical vehicle. So I put my robe on, went out there. It was an electrical company. The man said that he thought he was looking for the cat on the main line. He thought it was on the main line, and that really worried him when he found out that it was on my property, and the line that it was, the pole that was on, was the electricity was going to my house. That really didn't concern him very much. And so I said, well, can we do something to get the cat down? He said, well, I can try to poke him with a stick. He tried poking him with a stick. It didn't work. That night, there was a storm. The next day, I guess everybody called the power company. And somebody did come out. I didn't hear them. I've got surveillance system. I've got a dog. I was up. I was looking. I was watching. I didn't hear them. I don't know how they got into my yard. You can hear those trucks. And then you, Mr. Mayor, I didn't know that you were the mayor when you come to my house. Thank you for coming. But I guess I'm supposed to know who the mayor is, but I just, really don't pay too much attention to political things. And then the cat, I don't know what happened to it. I think that, I wish that, I know the fire or the electrical people probably aren't equipped to rescue pets, but I'm sure that cat needed some kind of attention, because it had been up there so long. The fire department guy says, well, I've never seen a cat skeleton in a tree. And I'm going, well, me either, but have you ever seen one on a light pole? And he said no. And a tree is different. There's a bunch of different ways a cat can get down, but on an electrical pole, no, I don't think that there's a way. But I appreciate your help, Mr. Mayor, for what you did to bring light to the subject, and thank you for hearing me out.
All right, thank you. Anybody else like to come forward?
Hi, my name's Kelly Cole. I reside at 505 Braddock Street. As you heard from Kimberly here, on May 4th, 2026, Bay Electric and Power responded to a call about a black and white cat stuck at the top of a utility pole in Kimberly's backyard. According to what was later shared, one lineman came out with a long pole and allegedly stated he was only concerned about protecting the electrical equipment, not the cat's life. The cat was reportedly poked at with a stick, and the situation was left unresolved overnight, which, as you know, on the night of the 4th into May 5th, we had a terrible storm with 35-mile-an-hour winds gusting. I feel bad for that cat. I bet you it was scared for its life. People that care about animals like me have a big mouth and will use it. So I contacted Bay Electric and Power the next morning when I realized this was not resolved. And I read them the Riot Act. And not even 3 minutes later, Mr. Gerard and I connected because I messaged him. Within 5 minutes, I was told the cat was down, but nobody knew how. And it was odd because if you would have coordinated, which was what we were trying to do, I volunteer with rescues. Like, for example, Bay City had 587 animals, I think, vaccinated through the clinic, through Karen Kramer's vaccine clinic that they hold once a year. You're able to volunteer. I was one of the volunteers on Saturday. So I talked to Kelly Zuby, who's a good friend of mine, and we kind of thought about it. That's odd because Bay Electric and Power should have ran into this situation probably 1,000 times before. Why don't we have anything in place with animal control? So Animal Control is willing to work with Bay Electric and Power and come up with a protocol. So next time this happens, because we all know there'll be a next time, they will know what to do, and then they'll have carriers on site with them. Because when you poke a cat with a stick and it doesn't come down overnight, that really doesn't solve any problems. And I want to bring this up that after I made a public fuss about this and put it on every single animal website that I had, which is probably over 1,000, I'm sure Bay City Electric and Power was blowing up because not many people are happy with how this was handled. That's why it was important to me to talk to the homeowner themselves and see what exactly went down, because how we're told things go down in this city and how they actually go down are two different things. Mayor, it was really nice that you came out there and you advocated for the cat. I appreciate that. But we should have been advocating for the cat beforehand. And whatever happened to the cat? Nobody knows. That cat could have got down from that electrical pole and slowly died because it was up there during a storm. The way this stuff is resolved in this city, it's not resolved. Excuses on top of excuses. In fact, I had a old mayor making a lot of excuses on there, but I won't say her name because I would be feared I'd be sued. But she was our mayor in 1977, as well as, I think, let me see. (1977) and 2003, and again from 2015 until she resigned on October 4th, 2004 due to health concerns. Multiple excuses, multiple reasons from the company of why this happened. But when she was called out, no answers in return besides more excuses. And I kind of think that's what we're all getting to at every single meeting here, is we're tired of the excuses from certain commissioners and people that sit on this board. We're awake, we see, and we're problems, and we're not going away, and there's a lot of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else like to come forward for public input? Okay, next item of business is remarks of the mayor and commissioner. Any commissioners have remarks? Commissioner Cubit.
Yeah, I appreciate the comments tonight, and I think that there's always room for improvement on everything and learning what's the takeaway from this experience. So There's a lot I don't know about the cat situation, but as you said, within 5 minutes of a call, the cat was already down. And I want to just commend city staff. I know there's a lot that we don't know about that happens behind the scenes and what actions they do take every day and the priorities that they have to constantly juggle. But I'm glad that the cat was taken down. It's my understanding that, of course, the cat was scared and ran away. As far as I know, nobody has any evidence that the cat passed or has found the cat, but maybe someone else can enlighten me. I'm sorry,
No.
I know this is a one-way communication.
No, point of order, please.
Sorry, I know this is one-way communication, but my point just being, I think there's always lessons learned from any experience, but I want to recognize that the city, despite all of its other obligations, found a way to problem solve this, and much of which was behind the scenes, and I really thank you for that.
All right, Commissioner Coakley.
Just to remind the constituents that they can come and talk to the commissioners after the meeting if they want to go over some other things. Just wondering where we're getting on the patching, if we're out there getting it done as of right now. I know, and every one of us sitting in these chambers can come up with multiple streets. I know Green Street, 5th Street, Lincoln, 3rd Street are all in desperate need of getting some work done. And just want to make sure we do, or we are moving forward with that, with the crews and that.
Yeah, Josh, you want to come up and speak on that?
Since the plants opened just recently last week, we've had 3 patch crews out just about every day. We have trailers as well as doing mastic repairs to Washington, Garfield. We have also been doing mastic repairs on the roadways on Washington Woodside. So we are doing our best to get these holes filled.
I just wanted to make sure we're moving forward with it. I know we're a month behind on when the plant was opening. So.
Yes, roughly the plants opened about 3 weeks behind where they normally would be, which obviously puts everything behind.
Okay, but we do have the crews out working every day on this.
Crews out every day working on potholes.
All right, thank you. Just want to make sure that's getting taken care of. I know we have sidewalks that need to be done yet. We got to get those taken care of. I did ask a question last time to the city manager. I'm still waiting for an answer on the money that we used to spend on the bridge repairs, where that was allocated to. I was under understanding it was going to go to streets. I just wanted to find out that. I'm sure she's going to get that to me. And my other one, I'll wait for the thing I pulled. Thank you.
All right, Commissioner Tenney.
Thank you to the chair. Just wanted to say that May is Mental Health Awareness Month to remind folks that if you're having any suicidal thoughts or ideations, just need somebody to talk to, you can always dial 988. The only other thing I have is pretty lighthearted. If you bet on the Detroit Pistons, I hope every leg of your parlay hits tonight. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Commissioner DeWitt.
Yeah, I'm going to, some of the things that were said on the podium, I just want to go back to. I do want to note that with what we're doing right now with the budget, we're seeing stuff 4 or 5 years in advance. One of the speakers mentioned falling on Winona Street when Commissioner Davidson was in the seat, which would have been before 2019. And that was on the project list effectively for 7 years while I waited for the state coupon to cover 80%-ish. I don't remember if that was what that one, full 80% of the cost to help the city so we could redo the whole thing, including removing the old water mains that were oak-lined, that were no longer in use but still sitting down there. So things are moving, unfortunately, slower than we want them to, but there are plans for that. As for the bridges themselves, we do get reimbursed for the cost that we have for them, and that's another one of the things in my packet that we didn't get to tonight because that wasn't part of tonight's general fund question. And I'll be getting this digitized to put up to for review. I want to note also with Station 2, I was in talks with the Mr. Rowell about trying to acquire funds for a full replacement, but from my understanding, and he can come up if he would like to talk about it, when the current Station 2 goes down, we do have a plan to keep services in the south end. It's not just a removal and elimination at this point, and we're hoping to never do that, because Station 2 was the second busiest station in the city.
Do you have the,
Yeah, if you could.
through the city manager too?
Yeah, Caleb, if you want to come on.
Yes, we've actually talked with Congress, or Senator Peters' office and Senator Slotkin's office about the funding to try and time it as best we can so that we have a replacement, at least a plan moving forward before we tear it down. Technically, once the funds are actually approved and allocated to us, we're supposed to have it done within a year, but they said there are extensions we can file for that, and we're actively pursuing as part of the Public Safety Committee plans to try and replace it sooner rather than later.
And we're not planning to eliminate services. We're planning on having temporary home until we can get the replacement.
Correct. If we are unable to build by the time we have to tear the other one down, we have a couple different options for temporary service in that area. We're not going to leave the south end. We can't. It's too busy.
Especially considering that has the history of the old town fire, and we don't want to have a repeat of that. Thank you. I just wanted to clarify that with the statement, because I know that was something that has come up from other people as well. Thank you.
Sure.
We do have a grant request out for rebuild.
Correct.
So. Commissioner Tenney?
Sorry.
Oh.
Getting your steps in. I'm not trying to hold you all night, sir, but just really, really briefly, could you tell us what the temporary plans would be if, emphasis on if, we had to tear it down before we put up again?
We have a couple different options that we're looking into right now. One of them is to renovate a little bit of the electric department to have kind of a temporary quarters in one of their pole barns. We've talked with Mr. Webster about doing that. The other option we've looked into is putting a fire station at the ambulance barn that MedStar has there on Columbus and Washington, Garfield area, and running out of there temporarily.
Appreciate you.
All right, Commissioner Shalwa.
Yes, so the city got $1 million grant to clean up the site where 2 is?
Correct.
How far will that money go? Will it tear down the building and remediate the soil and tear down the public works, the old building? How far will it go?
It only addresses the area where Station 2 is at now. It doesn't touch the old DPW building on Water Street. It's allocated to tear down the building, clean up the PFAS contamination, and cover it with blacktop.
Do you know how much cleanup would be done for that $1 million? I mean, is the site going to be clean then or not?
As clean as it can be.
I mean, are we talking about something like we're capping it and it's just holding it?
Oh, they're digging.
Are they going to take the soil out and clean it up?
Digging a ton of soil out of there first, and then refilling it with clean soil and then capping it with asphalt.
And the grant will do the job? I mean, do we have bids on this or anything?
We hope so. That's based on the bids that we got previously and room for them to go
my
up.
understanding is that the new site is contaminated too. How do we address that?
That's part of the process that we're going through right now to try and get a solid number on what it would cost to clean that up and build.
That's kind of a big problem. I mean, if that's where the new building's going to go, do we have any other options as far as, I remember not too long ago, there was, the city was looking at a site and somebody found out what you're looking for, and all of a sudden the price went up. Are there other areas?
There one other site that we looked at briefly and looked at the contamination records there, and it's worse than any other. It would be impossible to clean that up to have a place where somebody could stay the night. The one on Water Street is doable.
How doable? Totally doable, or? I mean, are we gonna, in a few years from now, with a new building on there, we're gonna end up with a problem saying, oh, this site is contaminated because the standards are higher?
Right, I'm not a environmental expert by any stretch, but the ones that we have talked to have said it's similar to the contamination that was part of Uptown when they built it, where you have to put basically a vapor barrier system in your building when you build it to allow for people to.
Does someone here at the city know these kind of things about cleanup and stuff?
Yes.
Who do we have, who does that?
Shelley Thurston.
I'm sorry.
Shelley Thurston is her name, but she's
She the
very knowledgeable in that aspect, and that's who I run everything by, and she works with.
What department is she in? I don't know her name.
The community development under that umbrella.
Okay, so now it's going to be well, I guess we'll see if we have a station up and running. That's all I have.
All right, thank you. Anybody else? Commissioner DeWitt?
My last thing was also about the lights throughout the construction project. All those lights along the one-ways, Thomas, Jenny, McKinley on this side here, those are all controlled by MDOT, not the city. So if you want to complain about the traffic flow and the possible turn signals that you want to see on them, you have to go to MDOT. We can't touch those lights. Those are a state highway.
All set? Yeah, I'll thank you very much. Commissioner Doyle?
Just to piggyback on that, and I guess really just for everybody here's knowledge, do we have a lead time on the Lafayette Bridge? Are we on track with that? Do we have an update at all?
So I can speak a little bit because there was a meeting last week. They're doing everything in their they can do to make sure it's on track. You know, they don't have a definitive timeline. They're trying to keep within the timeline given sometime in 2027. So they're doing everything in their power to keep on track. I'd like to see it on track, and hopefully it is on track. You'll see, I know they're shooting some aerial views, so you can see more coming up from both sides of the river, and so you can kind of check their process and how they're doing with some of the drones, so that's pretty interesting.
And then I guess just to follow up with Alex as well, I understand we personally cannot change traffic patterns, lights, things like that. Do we have a resource with the state that we can pursue that with? Because I absolutely have to agree, like that whole area on both sides of the bridge is dangerous. There's an increase in accidents, there's an increase in delays. I take that route twice every single day, and they're not wrong, so.
So the city engineer has had conversations. I've personally had multiple conversations after constituents reached out to me, talked to the folks at MDOT. They did go out, they kind of watch traffic patterns. Their concern is getting the traffic over the bridge, and their concern is that with that turn, it'll delay that. And some of the issue is people don't necessarily know they can turn left onto the one-way. If traffic coming the opposite side, they don't necessarily, keep in their own lane. There's some challenges there. I advocated for it, but obviously it's an MDOT decision, so that's kind of where it's at. Y'all set, Commissioner? Okay. I do want to thank our Department of Electric Power and Light. They did go out. They did get the cat down. I did message our city manager multiple times about the cat situation. My family's big animal lovers, so we were concerned about the cat, and I did go out and met with the owner, and so sorry to introduce myself as the mayor, but I was just concerned about the cat. And then we tried to locate the cat, and I still haven't heard anything about the cat. So I do agree that if we can put some kind of protocol of the Department of Animal Welfare Services, or I'm blanking on the name right now, but Bay County Animal, yeah, there we go. So if there is a possibility of putting together a protocol, that'd be awesome. So if those situations arrive again, that we can deal with those in a team effort. Breaking Bread Village is going to be here again. We had some good conversations the last meeting. This one will be here May 19th, next Monday, 6 to 8. Hope to have a little larger audience. Again, it is talking about city-related issues, getting city feedback. So it's part of a four-part series. So hopefully, I know there's a lot of folks talking about it. Love to have everybody come out that can. There's a tentative, just want to make sure, tentative date for May 26th of city manager interviews. So, and when the actual candidates will be released, you'll know as soon as they can. So, and then it's, you know, we want citizens to be part of that process. So again, look for that coming up. I went today to the Police Officer Memorial Service, the Fraternal Order of Police, Lodge 103 put that on, so thank you for that. It was you know, to honor those that given their life, you know, it's pretty impactful, so thank you, pass that along. A couple of things, I know a speaker talked about new developments. North Peak, I'm not gonna give a date. It says May, so hopefully in May there'll be a celebration that North Peak will be open. I know there's some new projects going on nearby there, so there is investment happening, and so there's, you know, 90 units going up on that waterfront. So, and I know they're moving ahead with some of that on Columbus residential housing there with the Housing Commission. So those are moving ahead. I know there's some new owners of former Sam's Brothers. The facades come off there downtown. So there is investment happening. So any more investment, if we want to see a car wash, it'd be great. If somebody wants to open up a car wash, I think community would be supportive, or whatever we want. You know, I've definitely, I think this body's supportive. We put forward some resolutions on grocery stores and vulnerable areas. So definitely, you know, looking for those kind of opportunities. So that's all I have. Commissioner DeWitt?
Just want to clarify, you mentioned it Breaking Bad is Tuesday the 19th. You said next Monday the 19th, so Tuesday the 19th.
You know what? You are correct. Tuesday, May 19th. Yes, yes. And then it would be Tuesday, May 26th. So we're used to all these Monday meetings. But all right. So the next, do we have any public hearings? Oh, anything from the manager's office?
Just one thing real quick. I just wanted to acknowledge and congratulate the electric department. They were designated, let me find this here, sorry I closed it. The diamond status of the Reliable Public Power Provider program for the APPA, which is given to organizations that demonstrate leading practices in 4 key areas: reliability, safety, workforce development, and system improvement. So congratulations, thanks to Director Adams' leadership and his professional and dedicated staff. This is something that'll be last for 3 years. Also, the Municipal Association of Clerks promotes and educates Michigan clerks throughout Michigan Professional Municipal Clerk Certification Program. Clerks are recognized for their knowledge. What was the actual for TJ? It's acknowledgement for commitment to education and desire to maintain confidentiality, clearly defined commitments in the clerk's profession and in your community. On behalf of the Michigan Association of Municipal Clerks Board of Directors, I ask you to join in congratulating TJ for this accomplishment and well-deserved recognition. I did not know that.
Well, there you now you do. That's why I gave it to you. We just got it. I just got it. So, all right. I think that covers that. I do not have any public hearing. We do not have public hearings or special orders. So we have no unfinished business. We are into the regular items on the agenda. Will the clerk please read the next item of business?
Reports of Officers 11, City Manager recommending contract with McMillan Maintenance Services, Freeland, Michigan, to provide professional management, maintenance, and operation at Oak Ridge Cemetery for a 5-year period beginning May 19th, 2026, in the amount of $155,000 for the first year and increasing annually years 2 through 5. Recommendation approved.
All right, Commissioner Coakley.
Just a couple questions.
Oh, we have to have a motion first. Is there a motion? Commissioner DeWitt?
I'll make it. Move to approve.
All right, is there a second? Commissioner Cubit?
Second.
All right, discussion.
Sorry about that. Just a few questions on this. Is this a bid out service, and does it go to the lowest person, or is it by choice?
I believe in this particular bid we had 1 respondent, so this was the only one we had available.
Okay. Well, that answers or does everything else with me, because would really like to see more of these going to local companies, and if we only had one bid on it, we only had one bid on it. But in the future, I'd like to see more Bay City-oriented business as if they're within the means and prices and everything. But, all right, thank you. That's all I have on that.
All right, Commissioner DeWitt?
I guess the follow-up for that is, since we're only getting one bid, can we put a note for the end of this contract to compare cost of this versus cost of having it done internally and having us hire in? Because if we're only going to get one bid, we might be able to save on that end, but we're already down this path. We need this in that service.
Yeah, actually, purchasing had brought this up because we knew this was one, and this has been a problem for a while, that there's only one company we can find to do this. And I believe Craig had looked at other municipalities around us to see what they did, and a lot of them do it themselves, so that's something we could look into.
All set?
Thank you.
All right, Commissioner Zanotti.
You know, I have a hard time supporting a 5-year contract. That seems kind of, unless we're saving a lot of money by giving them 5 years, that kind of locks you in. Do you know why we did 5 years or not?
Just like I said, there's nobody else that does these services professionally without us doing it themselves, and the neighbors seem to mostly do it themselves. I believe, not speaking for you, Craig, but I believe you looked at some other larger cemeteries, and they have giant corporations who actually maintain them. Craig can fill you in a little bit more on what's going on.
Yeah, we looked into it. A lot of the cemeteries were either like Saginaw, Midland, do them themselves. Some cemeteries were big conglomerates that are nationwide. We also reached out to the Catholic Diocese, and this contractor, McMillan, is their number one that they deal with between Saginaw, Bay City, and I don't know if Midland was included in that, but that's the main contractor they deal with for their services as well. So we try to do our due diligence on it, but it's hard to find anybody else that would do it. So we just, this has been the same contractor that's been doing it for as far as, I believe, like 20 plus years for the city, and he's been the only bidder every time. So I think that's why they've just kept doing it 5 years. I just repeated what the last contract was.
All set, Commissioner? All right, Commissioner Coakley.
Hey, may I ask Craig another question? Is this something that you guys could do if you had the manpower and the resources?
I do plan on looking into it. We just took over because Patty Salinas in the manager's office was doing some of the work with the cemetery, so we just got, with her position being removed, we took over some of that work into our office. So we're learning through that process right now, so I don't want to try to take on and learn everything brand new, especially with this being just happening right now. So with me being new into this position last year. So I do plan on over the next 5 years looking into what that process would take, what it would entail, and seeing if it's worth it to bring it in-house. That was already on my to-do list.
I would prefer keeping our money in-house on that, so that would be.
Yep.
All right, anybody else? Okay, will the clerk please call the roll? The motion adopt.
Commissioner DeWitt?
Yes.
Rumberg?
Yes.
Charlebois?
Yes.
Cubit?
Yes.
Coakley?
Yes.
Doyle?
Yes.
Tenney?
Yes.
Zanotti? 8 yes.
All right, motion's been adopted. Will the clerk please read the next item of business?
Reports of committees, 12, Brownfield Redevelopment Authority Board Meeting Minutes, 4/15/25, recommendation receive.
Is there a motion? Commissioner DeWitt?
Move to receive.
Is there a second? Commissioner Runberg?
Second.
Discussion? Commissioner Runberg?
Yeah, I think we may have discussed this maybe about a year ago, and I can't remember if it was with Brownfield or if it was a different committee, but these minutes are from more than a year ago. I believe Brownfield meets 4 times a year. So why is it that takes that long for us to get them?
That's, Debbie's waving. Are you waving your finger at us, or are you, all right. We're getting her answer.
Yep, that board has only met once since that date of April. So when they met this past April, they approved those minutes. So they are very timely. They were just approved, and But they've only met once. There was no business, so they didn't meet.
Okay, I appreciate that clarification. Thank you.
All right. Anything else? Okay, will the clerk please read the motion, or roll on the motion to approve?
Receive.
Oh, receive, I'm sorry.
Commissioner Rumberg.
Yes.
Charlebois.
Yes.
Cubit.
Yes.
Coakley.
Yes.
Doyle.
Yes.
Tenney.
Yes.
Donati. DeWitt.
Yes.
8 yes.
All right, motion is approved. Will the clerk please read the next item of business?
Regular Agenda 1, Commissioner Tenney's resolution awarding $67,340 to Sacred Heart for substance use disorders and directing the city manager to create an application process for the remaining funds.
Is there a motion, Commissioner Tenney?
Move to approve.
There's a second, Commissioner DeWitt.
Second.
Discussion? All right, Commissioner Charlevoix.
Yeah, can you tell me where the money would go? I mean, is there going to be a meeting or so ago, there was discussion about residential treatment, and it sounds like they don't have any money for that, or very little.
We could suspend the rules. We do have some in the audience, unless you want to tackle it, Commissioner Tenney. Go for it.
Thank you to the chair. Yes, to the commissioner from the 8th, it's laid out in the resolution, but I got some specifics from Sacred Heart. It is to go to their residential program specifically. So $15,000 for residents that are uninsured or underinsured. This would also include treatment at Sacred Heart's outpatient office so that they can receive additional support in their recovery. $40,340 for first, perhaps second month's housing costs for residents without an ability to pay. $12,000 for house supplies, including items such as food, hygiene, cleaning supplies, etc., for residents. So that's where the $67,340 totals from, right? That's roughly, just for reference, half of what's remaining in the opioid settlement fund.
Yep.
And the portion of the resolution that calls for an application process for the remainder of those funds, that was actually a recommendation from city manager, and I support that as well, obviously, or I wouldn't have had it in the resolution.
So this money is coming from the opiate settlement money?
Correct.
Is this going to be, is that a one-time thing that we got that money, or does anyone know?
It's
It is
a
about
one-time-
85,000, I believe. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, Commissioner Runberg?
Yeah, so obviously for those who are not familiar with the issue, Purdue Pharma had knowingly and aggressively pushed opioids into our communities, and Bay City was harmed by it, and this is a payout that we're getting there. So I really want to thank the 4th Ward Commissioner for taking point and working with Sacred Heart to get this money secured. One thing I would ask when we're looking at this potential grant that we would set up for people to apply to, I would encourage through the Deputy City Manager that we also allow for smaller operations, not necessarily large established ones, but if we could open it up in some way to allow for smaller outfits that are more impactful because they're in our community directly working with people on the streets. That's the only caveat I'd add to it.
All right. Anything else? Commissioner Coakley.
It's nice this is getting allocated somewhere. I would like to see, would have liked to have seen a grant process with this one for almost half of it, but it's going to the right cause on this, and it's good to see that the application process is created for anything else with these funds. Just want to have a process with that so we know where the money's going and how it's getting there, instead of just, I mean, it's a good, everything's going in the right way in this one, but just want to set precedents on applications.
Perfect. Commissioner Zanotti.
Just a quick question. Does this, no problem with this resolution, but these funds, are they all for rehabilitation, or can this go to, for example, our own public safety, to put more of a prevention kind of program in schools or something like that? Are we locked in for, do you know?
I honestly don't know. I haven't had these conversations, but Caleb may know.
Just to clarify, that there's still more money that will be coming in the future too from this funding. It's over several years. It's very specific on what you can spend it for. It has to meet certain parameters. I don't know, since we first started getting them, been meeting with various nonprofit groups to try and see where the money could best be used. I think the application process would be great, but we used it already, some of it, to develop the app that we use now, and also purchased a rescue vehicle with it as well to treat people with opioid overdoses. But I think the use of this money for some of these services that already exist, rather than us duplicating them, would be a good use of the funds, in my opinion.
Thank you. Any other questions while we have? Yeah, Commissioner Coakley?
There's no timeline on the usage of this?
I don't know if there's like an expiration date. I assume most people, when you give them money, they spend it, so I don't think we'll have that issue.
All set? Yeah, I do have to say, we heard a presentation last meeting about the challenges we have in our community, so to see this funding be utilized to support folks in recovery, I think is a good thing, and we're adding a process to apply for those other funds. The county does receive a higher allocation of funds. They're working with the Community Foundation. I think they're working through some of those things, but so thank you very much, and there's a little task force been kind of hearing and talking about those issues in our community, and so I think this is great use of funds. So, yes, Commissioner Tenney.
Yes, just, we've already said things similar to this, but I do think that the appropriate use of these funds should be rehabilitative and restorative, and I think Sacred Heart's already doing that work, so thank you to them for coming and giving the presentation last time, and for getting me some specific dollar amounts rather, because I can't just ask for money all willy-nilly without specifics, so thank you again.
All right, thank you. Any other? All right, seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Charlebois?
Yes.
Cubit?
Yes.
Coakley?
Yes.
Doyle?
Yes.
Tenney?
Yes.
Zanotti? DeWitt?
Yes.
Rumberg?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, motion passes. Any other business before us this evening? Seeing none, we're adjourned.